Hello class, today we're going to start Photoshop with lesson 1. We're just going to touch up on the basics of Photoshop. So in order to do that, we've got to go over just a few really basic concepts and vocabulary. So first up on our vocabulary is workspace. And workspace, when we talk about workspace in Photoshop, we're basically talking about the user interface. Okay, the user interface is all the tools and all the options that the user sees up on their screen. So first off, here at the top we have what is called the menu. Okay, so we have the menu bar up here, and two items on our menu are instantly recognizable. That would be the file option and the edit option. Okay, most of all these other ones you probably do not recognize unless you've worked with other CS programs. Now on our left hand side we have our toolbar. This is what's called the toolbar, and it is filled with all the tools that we're going to be using in Photoshop. On the right hand side we have our palettes, and the most important palette that we're discussing today is our layer palette. Okay, so here we have our palettes. On the left hand side again are tools, and on the top we have our menu. Okay, now one of the first things that we're going to discuss is the tools. So our tools here on the left hand side on our toolbar, we have quite a few of them. So this first set here, which is about 6 tools, those 6 tools make up what are called our selection tools. So we have things like the selection tool itself. We have our shape selection tool. Then we have our lasso tool, our magic wand tool, or quick selection tool, our crop tool, and our slice tool, which we're not going to use too much. The next set of tools is our touch-up tools. Our touch-up tools are made up of the healing brush tool, the pencil tool, the clone stamp tool, the eraser, the bucket, the smudge tool or the blur tool, and the dodge tool. After the touch-up tools, we have what are called our text tools. And in the text tools, we have the pen tool, the text tool itself, the path selection tool, and the ellipse tool, sorry. Below this set of tools, we have the paint section, and the paint section gives us things like our notes, our eyedropper, which is basically the color selector, our hand tool, which you can use to move things around, the zoom tool, which you can use to zoom, although you can also hold down the command or control key if you're using Windows, and press the plus symbol key or minus symbol key on your keyboard, and you can zoom in and out that way as well. Then of course here's our color selector. Then going back at the top, one of the things I wanted to go over is how each tool has a number of subtools. So for example, right now I'm clicking on the rectangular marquee tool, and when I click and hold it, I get an option of 3 more tools. So I get the elliptical, the single row, the single column, and I can do that with every tool that has a little triangle on the lower right hand corner. So I'm going to go ahead and try that spot healing brush tool, and we have 3 other tools that go along with the healing brush tool. So most of these have that option where you can bring up different subtools. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. We're just going to do something very simple just to get started with the concept of today's key term, layer and layers. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hide the vocabulary, and we're going to bring up a new document, Photoshop document, by going to File and clicking New. Or you can hold down the Command Control key on your Windows. So I'm going to go Command or Control N. And that brings up a window. And by the way, I have this preset to where it has already a document that is 8.5 inches in width, 11 inches in height. Our resolution for today doesn't really matter, but let's pretend that we're going to put this on the internet. So I'm going to make it pretty small. I'm going to make it 100 pixels per inch. So our resolution isn't going to be the greatest, but then again, we're not printing this, so it doesn't matter. Then we're going to go down here where it says background contents. We can either make it transparent, or we can choose the background color. I'm just going to go with the white. So white is the default. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I get my document or my image. And one of the first things that I'm going to do is I am going to click on the rectangle tool. And I'm going to go ahead and just draw a rectangle anywhere. So we draw it there. Okay, I have my green rectangle. And by the way, I think I'm going to lock this layer. And for those of you that didn't see that, there was a lock up here. And I clicked on it and dragged it down to the trash can to get rid of the lock. And now what that means is I can now click on the name and rename it. So I'm going to go ahead and call it rectangle. So now I renamed that layer. I'm going to go ahead and draw another shape. So let me draw another shape here. I'm going to go back on my shapes and I'm going to go with the ellipse tool. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a red circle. And by the way, I have to make a new layer. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Layer, New. Now for those of you that don't know, and I'm going to call this layer red circle. Okay, so now I have my new layer, and I can go ahead and draw my circle here. So I can make a perfect circle by holding down the Shift, clicking, and dragging out the shape of the circle. So as you can see, no matter what size I make my circle, it's always a perfect circle because I'm holding down the Shift. I'm going to stop right there. So now, just so we can get the concept of these two layers that we have here, I'm going to go ahead and click up here on the Move tool. And I get these little dots and squares on the corner of the shape. And I can click anywhere on the shape and I can move it. And just so we get the concept of layers, here we have our green rectangle and our red circle. So far we have two layers. And if you can see them right here, I can highlight, click on each different one. Those are our two layers so far.